What's going on, everybody? Top 10 Pokemon back, bringing you another top Pokemon card auctions of the week recap. Folks, I am here to deliver once again some insane Pokemon card auctions. We saw the newest set, Paldean Fate. Some of the raw cards come by an auction, including that beautiful Charizard EX and the Mew EX sell. What did they sell for raw? Stay tuned for that. And we also saw in the PWCC Premier Auction a PSA 10 First Edition base set Charizard come by. Did it hit new highs, new lows? We'll find out here. And we also saw the Ishihara GX promo card come by, I believe in PSA 6. So we're going to see what kind of a price that fetched as well. I got something for everyone in this video, so thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. A shout out to today's awesome auction recap sponsor. It is CantoShark.com, the ultimate Pokemon card marketplace. Check out CantoShark.com's brand new inventory that just dropped on their website. Their website is conveniently designed for you to browse their newest listings, and also cards that they're currently having sales on. And don't forget to pick up a pack of their semi-rigid card savers so you can protect those beautiful raw cards of yours. So head over to CantoShark.com after the recap and check out their inventory. Alright everybody, I'm very excited for this recap. Let's jump into it with some modern sales. What is the Scarlet and Violet 151 set been up to? Is it still doing exceptionally well in the graded market? Yes it is. Here we have a Bulbasaur illustration rare, PSA 10, selling for $102.50, along with this Squirtle illustration rare in PSA 10 that's been selling for the most out of all three starters for $182.50. And then we have the Charmander here in PSA 10 that sold for $153. And then their big brothers aren't doing too bad as well. Here we have a Venusaur EX special illustration rare that sold for $185. Here's the Blastoise EX that sold for $192. And then of course the Charizard EX sold this week for $395. And then as I said at the beginning of the video, we saw a couple of interesting sales from the newest set, Paldean Fates, that just got released. Here is the Mew EX Special Illustration Rare, selling raw this week for $153, along with King Charizard EX here that sold for an even $300 for a near mint to mint copy. So stay tuned here. I feel a top 10 video coming out sometime this week. You don't want to miss that. A couple of more interesting modern card sales. Here is a Mewtwo GX from Shining Legends. This sold as a PSA 10 for $590, so Mewtwo GX still looking very strong as a PSA 10. And then here we have a Shining Lugia that sold for $256. Here we have a lineup of Master Ball Evolutions, all graded PSA 10. You got the Eevee, Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon, all PSA 10 sold for $465. And then, of course, we can't forget the bigwig himself, the Pikachu Reverse Holo in PSA 10 sold this week for $610. I know that this Master Ball set is very popular and very widely received by the community. Here is interesting. We have a BGS 10 25th anniversary Japanese Charizard signed by Arita. So I guess both the autograph and the card graded a 10. And this card sold this week for 4,250 big ones. Woo, mama. And then on the vintage side of eBay, here is a Japanese base set Charizard Holo in PSA 10 that sold for $4,199. And then we had a couple of unlimited base set cards come by. Here's an unlimited base set Chansey, a card you don't see come by very often. I do believe it's still the lowest pop holo from base set, sold as a PSA 10 this week for $2,677. We saw the Blastoise holo sell for $2,025. And then from Jungle Set, we've been seeing some no symbol holos come by each week. Not a lot, just one or two cards. Here's a no symbol Pidgeot in PSA 10 that sold for $731. And then here we saw two First edition PSA 10 Snorlax holos from Jungle. This one here sold for $6,395. The other one sold for $6,306. And this, along with like the first edition Vaporeon and PSA 10, are some of the most expensive cards from first edition Jungle. And then we saw several of the big hitters from Team Rocket. Here's a first edition Dark Charizard that sold for an even $3,000. Here's a Dark Blastoise that sold for $2,213. The beautiful Dark Dragonite sold for $2,394. And then we saw this Dark Raichu first edition holo sell for $1,253. And then here we saw the first edition Rainbow Energy from this set. A pretty low pop card, sold for $779 this week. A couple of cards from the Neo series. Here is a Feraligatr number 4 first edition card that sold for $1,025. Here's a first edition Tyranitar from Neo Discovery that sold for $1,650. And then here, folks, from Legends Awakened, we saw this Mewtwo Level X in PSA 10 that sold for $1,675. And I'm not sure we've ever covered this card in an auction recap, so that was very awesome. Here we have the Groudon from Call of Legends in PSA 10 that sold for $1,800 this week. And then check this out, folks. It is a PSA 10 Master Scroll Daisuke Club promo card, sold for $20,300 this week. And then on to some very interesting pieces of sealed product. Here we have 2 of the Kanto Power collection boxes with the Mewtwo box and the Dragonite box right behind it, I believe. And these boxes sold for $352. Here we have 2 of the Hidden Fates Elite Trainer boxes in some nice acrylic containers there that sold for $319. Here we have a Sun and Moon Team Up booster box that sold for $2,025. And if you don't know, this is like easily the most expensive and most valuable set from Sun and Moon. Here we have a Heart Gold Soul Silver Triumphant box that sold for $3,453. Here is an unlimited Italian Fossil booster box. Last week we saw a couple of WotC Dutch booster boxes. Here's an Italian Fossil box that sold for $4,700. Here is a first edition Neo Discovery box that sold for $18,100. And then last but not least, we have this Skyridge blister pack featuring the Vaporeon on it. Last week, I think we saw a pack with Kabutops and maybe Ho-Oh. These blister packs are very expensive. This week, it sold for $4,250. So this one pack of Skyridge is worth way more than a lot of booster boxes, a lot of older booster boxes. That's crazy. Up next, we have the PWCC weekly auction block. Here is a Full Art Ho-Oh EX from Dragons Exalted in PSA 10, sold for $780, along with this Full Art Entei from Dark Explorers that sold for $930. Here we have a CGC 10 blueback no number Pikachu card from the Top Sun series, sold for $2,040. Here we have more cards, more of these Techno cards from the Topps Chrome series. Here is a Dragonite that sold as a PSA 8 for $2,310, along with this Mewtwo Techno card that sold as a PSA 6 for $2,370. A couple of Charizards. Here's a Charizard Holo from Platinum Arceus, sold for $990, along with this Charizard Holo from Secret Wonders that sold for an even $3,000. Here we have some Japanese Shining cards from the Neo series. These cards mean business, folks. With some of these prices, here's a Shining Kabutops, sold for $4,680. The Shining Celebi sold for $4,920, while the Shining Tyranitar sold for $6,600. Up next was this 25th Anniversary Creatures Deck Corporate History card in PSA 9. I think it was also autographed. The autograph was just authenticated, but this card sold for $6,300 this week. And then here we have a 2004 World's Championships promo card. This is the top 16 Tropical Wind card that sold for $9,900. And then again, folks, I think we saw this card go by a couple weeks ago. I think it was the same card. I think it was the same cert. This first edition Pichu must not have been paid for. I'm not sure if it was paid for this week, but a PSA 10 first edition Pichu from Neo Genesis sold for $12,000. So take that as you will. And then to finish this auction recap, we have a Sun and Moon Ishihara GX Black Star promo, an extremely limited card. This one is a PSA 6 that sold for $16,800. And then the auction of the week we got to give to this PSA 10 first edition base set Charizard that sold this week for $192,000. And folks, this is definitely the lower end of what we've seen this card sell for in the past 3 to 4 years. It's not the lowest we've seen. As I believe a year or so ago, this card sold on Heritage for $162,000. So it's definitely up from there, $30,000 more than that. But this was a card, folks, that once sold for $420,000. Now down to $192,000. What do you think of all that? Thank you so much, community, for watching. I really appreciate it. Don't forget to go check out cantoshark.com. I would appreciate that as well. See what they have there for you. That's all I got today, folks. Thanks again for tuning in. I'll catch you all in my next one.